The views and opinions expressed by the hosts do not state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the assumptions, views, opinions, and insinuations made by the hosts or the guests do not reflect those of the show, the management, and the company.
Identify, discussed, understand. Casting live from Manila, Philippines, we are Simply Security, helping you streamline security easily.
Good evening, Philippines!
Good evening, listeners.
Welcome back to another Simply Security episode. It's a Wednesday, and every 6:30 p.m. you should tune in. October 21st, 2020, I am Miles Melia.
And this is Eric Kalindogan,
Welcome to Simply Security.
streamlining security easily. So for tonight's episode, it's very interesting because it's really more of like a conversation. We're going to talk about, policies when it comes to safety, security, and health. But this time in a post-pandemic. Kasi over the past few episodes, we're like talking about, during the pandemic, the now. So it's basically the new normal. But what we found out is that, historically speaking, when you look at past wars, pandemics, or any global events, laging right after those, laging may explosion of ideas, inventions, discoveries, yes, new realizations, and we wanted to talk about those forecasts in the current context, taking in consideration, there's that concept of technology na. So we're talking about social media, so on and so forth.
What I appreciate about our topic for tonight, Eric, is that it gives us an advanced thinking, or it also prepares us to look beyond the problem or the crisis that we're having right now. It's not the end of the world, definitely. As long as we're waking up every morning, it's a new day, although we are in the pandemic. And as a safety expert, he's actually, it's so difficult to explain our guest
later
tonight.
on.
But what I'm trying to say is he's one of the best minds in the Philippines, and he has proven that over and over again. So let me introduce our guest for tonight. He is an esteemed and well-known professional in the field of safety, emergency, and disaster management, as well as medicine. Dr. Ted Isguera. Among his most notable experiences is being the Expedition and Wilderness Emergency Medical Services Physician of the Philippine Mount Everest Expedition Team, and the voyage of me too, of the Balangayan, being the officer in charge of one of the elite rescue teams of the Philippines, the Specialized Medical Assistance Response Team, or SMART, of the Philippine Coast Guard. He is also the author of the Handbook on Emergency Preparedness, titled Readiness in Times of Disasters, and acts as a consultant and member for various non-government organizations, humanitarian and medical organizations, associations such as Israel Aid, International Disaster Response Network, and World Association of Disaster and Emergency Medicine. Dr. Ted also serves as a senior instructor on technical rescue, advanced life support, mass casualty incident management, among other topics, for various schools, military units, local government rescue teams, and communities, not only in the Philippines, but around Southeast Asia. In the medical field, he was given the plaque of commendation by the Health and Lifestyle Medical Advisory Board and editorial staff for being a practitioner of operational medicine in the aspects of emergency preparedness and response, particularly during Yolanda. He also received the EDC Hero Award for the exceptional act of service, selflessness, and sacrifice at a time of great need during the November 8, 2013 Yolanda crisis. Currently, Dr. Ted sits as the Emergency Preparedness and Disaster Response Unit lead of the Energy Development Corporation. Energy Development Corporation, EDC, the world's largest geothermal energy company. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you a very good friend, Dr. Ted Eskera.
Good evening, Dr. Ted.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Magandang gabi. Marahay na banggay sa Indo. And I'm so honored to be invited. it is not really my specialty. But whatever I do in life, whether in an expedition or going with a principal or simply at home with my family or with my circle of friends, I always practice the S3, safety, security, survival. So this is some sort of we call it some sort of a liberation webinar or Zoom seminar
on security
for us to understand some more the very essence in my being, in being human and as a human being. Okay, these are two different things.
You're more on the safety and emergency. You appreciate the link
And medical.
and medical, of course. But let me just ask you this, Doctor. You're an emergency manager. What does an emergency manager do? And is there any difference working with the Energy Development Corporation?
Okay. First is the Energy Development Corporation. We are, if we are not the top one, we are the top two around the world as a geothermal platform. No, we drill, we have everything. All batteries needed to create geothermal power plants. We have them. We have geologists who will check for sources, and these are all renewable energy. We are strictly renewable energy company. We don't compromise with anything that is first and that. Now, in our country, the critical utilities like energy, water, transport, telcos, even garbage collection are privatized. Therefore, there are adjustments because these are not government-owned. So, since you run a very sensitive company, we are called the critical utilities. Meaning, in the chessboard, you are the officials. You are not the pawn. In trouble, if you run power, that's gonna be more trouble. So, you have to do some measures in practicing the utmost culture in health, in safety, environment, and even in security. We have arrangement on looking at risk reduction or risk assessment in a calculative notion. It's like there are batteries or systems in place in relation to the risk. Okay, so there are interventions. And then EDC, since we are, of course, we have logistical advantage, we converted into being proactive along the way because we were from the government before under PNOC.
Yeah. That's what
I was not yet there. But I was looking at it.
When did you start?
I started after Yolanda. They got me.
2013.
Okay.
Yeah. After
So
Yolanda, they got me
6 years.
because one of our power plants in Leyte was terribly hit by the worst typhoon. And in the calculative tier, you move up into what we call the proactive. Okay. So when you are proactive, you have like alert systems for specific risks. So we were studying foresight because looking at risk, it is not like one size fits all.
Yeah, true. It should be systematically designed.
Yeah, we are practicing it. Yes, site specific, hazard focus, course time bound, and I just added it from me, modesty aside. Culturally amenable practices.
For those who are listening, you might want to write it down.
Okay, one by one.
Right.
Since we're talking on the private sector, how about cost, sir? Is that part of the consideration?
Yeah, we are looking at it. And of course, like any units or organizations around the world, they like it that they will not spend lots. Of course.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
It's cost
But
efficient.
we are weighing, we are looking at the risk assessment and the needs assessment and the foresight. One good thing that we have is the foresight, and make it palatable to the top administration that they will invest on safety.
Management.
And I always tell people around, it's fine if you don't like the cost. Well, it's fine. Then get accident and count money, come back to me. Something to that effect.
It's like insurance.
Don't like to invest in
Is
security.
it working?
Fine. Well,
Is it working?
that's only, it's like in a nutshell that
Yeah,
you have to tell them, this is going to be the impact. And there might be some complex impacts along the way that might destroy the image of the company. It's always the image. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And then lately, our top managers are quite aggressive in leveling up into being a practicing generative culture, wherein risk management is a philosophy, not in the management level, but in every employee. So we are to read the protocols and write on the survey, and we are being monitored if we hit 100%. including the
Really?
janitorial services up to the top level, then it becomes like part of your doctrine.
It's ingrained. It will be ingrained to the lifestyle and
Yeah.
the mindset.
The generative level, in the maturity level, is more on inciting doctrine that it becomes a reflex in you. It becomes a part of you. The same practice in security and in safety, wherein our people must be indoctrinated. Our country has all the troubles. Everything you know, every insult and hazard you know in the world is in the Philippines -1. Anything about snow and ice.
Yeah.
Blizzard, snowstorm.
At
We have
least.
drought. We have war.
Bawasan isa.
We
Apo.
have epidemic.
Yeah.
We have typhoons after typhoon.
Vulnerable to a lot of disasters.
We have
Or
technological
exposed.
breakdown. All things, the civilization, all troubles known in civilization, it's here in the country. And the sad thing is, we are not understanding these things. We have myopic vision. It's like when I went back to Giwan, the
Giwan
families,
Samar.
most of the
Samar.
families, in Samar, after Yolanda, and I went back there, those families who lost family members in that spot, after several months, they went back to the same spot again.
Does this sadden you, Doc Ted?
It saddens me, but if it saddens me and it destroys me, the stress can decay my body. I have to reconfigure myself that I have to be on a platform wherein I can deliver the message that people will understand, laymanize it.
Yeah.
And one good thing about here, Sir and Ma'am Miles, is we don't only teach people about security and safety, particularly if I have trainees and do the reward and punishment method. Sometimes I have to make people a little more intelligent by setting myself as an example. I walk the talk because, like what Sir said, it becomes my way of life.
Right.
As an emergency manager, one thing is you have to be proactive. Don't be reactive, a manager wherein you just react. You have to look ahead of situations. So it's either you create a resilient unit or a robust unit. When I say resilient unit, if you are being hit by one insult, you can easily bounce back. Another thing is a robust mentality. A robust mentality is you don't wait to be plucked up, to be put down. You have to react. For whatever it is, you have to select on those two choices, and then you have to play it along as how Charles Darwin reminds us that for a species to last, you have to go along with the tide. Not really to compromise, but you have to study so that you can just
adapt.
Probably adapt. Yeah, that's the right word. Adapt. You cannot just be off color and off the cuff, and you become more like a soft target.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a science all by itself. It is a science. Security is a science. It is an art. It is also an ethics. So it's not a small thing, a security guard thing.
Yeah.
It is a wide encompassing 359 degrees learning. As a security manager or emergency manager, you can study geology, you can study public works, you can study health, you can study disaster risk reduction, you can study military sciences.
It's all
and
encompassing.
Because security is everything. It is the first defense of man. It is like the skin. The skin is the largest organ. You remove the skin, you are dead. You're prone to infection, septicemia, and lots of things.
Yes.
So the skin is like your security. It has all the things needed so that if something goes here, there are elements in the skin and in the body to fight it back so that you will live for the next 80 years.
Yeah. And I think most people now, because of the pandemic, are actually forced. Because back then, these things are something that we've always said. Proactive, adapt, adjust, be strategic. And sometimes, as much as it's frustrating, kumbaga, not most people appreciate it. But now I could see a lot of people are actually forced to adjust, forced to adapt, simply because of what's happening
because of
the pandemic. Yeah. And I think that's we're going to hold our thoughts on that as we proceed on our next segment. We will try to make it more focused on that particular discussion.
So we will be right back with Doc Ted after some short reminders.
Want to learn about corporate security and risk management from industry experts for free? Check our latest Mid-Direct Touchpoint to learn more. Mid-Direct Touchpoint is Black Pearl's online webinar platform where security professionals and enthusiasts discuss relevant security frameworks, strategies, and issues. To register, check our LinkedIn account for the most upcoming topic and schedule.
Casting live from Manila, Philippines, we are Simply Security, helping you streamline security easily.
And we're back. Ayan, we're back with Doc Ted Eskera, Emergency Manager of Energy Development Corporation, discussing about safety, health, and security policy in the post-pandemic. Our first question, Eric, with Doc Ted. Do you think the virus will immediately eradicate once the vaccine is produced and distributed to the public?
I don't want to create an assurance that it will eradicate the virus because in 1918 pandemic, if I'm reminded,
Spanish flu.
The Spanish flu. It took 27 years before there was vaccine. And although since 2016, I've been talking in my talks in EDC about epidemics because, you know, my orientation as a war doctor, I have my training on combat medicine. I have this chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear explosives training, wherein I became an instructor also under Canadian Registry. So I look at things, it's like, for me, it's like, I look at things like war, so that I will always be on my toes.
Right. That's a good perspective.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna be complacent. And despite the fact that I was hit by COVID, I took it like a blessing because I can relate more. You know what? I know how it felt to be a serious case. God, it was providential experience for me because I'm reminded with humility. It took a very crude entity to bring down the arrogance in man, and it changed my perspective in life. So it depends. It depends on how humanity will look at it. When we are serious in collaborating, yes, we can probably quickly neutralize the situation. Because it will if this becomes sustained and so the virus, the pandemic, so it depends on what's gonna happen tomorrow. So I'm not a prophet on who will invent or disperse or dispatch the first vaccine. So it depends on what country and on what leadership and on what motive. Because right now, the language that we are to put, particularly in the safety and security circle, is also the geopolitical side of it. Because, you know, people are throwing influences like China dominating the world market. So we'll play it as we cross the bridge.
I think on a nutshell, despite the presence of a vaccine, moral story that we have to be reminded of is we can't be complacent, you know, because the moment that in any situation, the moment we put down our guards or, you know, went back to our usual norm of not washing hands, not practicing social distancing, you know, like any change, it should be gradual. It cannot be immediately dropped to you and then suddenly you go back to your old ways, right? But let me ask you, Dr. Looking at the business landscape, how do you imagine the business sector, the private sector, on a post-pandemic context?
I don't like to play like I'm the business analyst but I just react according to how I see the weather through my window.
Okay.
Okay. While we were waiting for WHO and DOH update, the virus jumps from one border to the other until it reached our shores, and we were experimenting on how to do it. And right now, we are still quite experimenting on quite a number of things. The thing that we are to look at is there will be a change in the landscape, quite a number of things. Right now, we are practicing online. Before, it was not there, but there were adjustments somewhere along the way. And this will create some sort of a vacuum because there were no existing incident action plans, particularly in this side of the world, in this country, that we were so, like we were handcuffed to quite a number of things. The work from home was not even part of the
imagination.
Not entertained, actually.
The work from home, right? although modesty aside, EDC was a little bit ahead on quite number of things. We had good stockpile, but before Manila had its lockdown, our employees will already survive like for 3 months with a stockpile. Our chairman, Piqui Lopez, is having this war doctrine. We have to hit the ceiling in preparing. We did shelter in place. So all key workers in geothermal power plants are just there. No movement in and out so that we will not be harboring the virus. So we are looking at it. Then we do SIP. And immediately, while the whole country was campaigning to wash hands, Energy Development Corporation was already working in work from home. It's like everything, the skeleton and the muscles are there already. We are ahead. I'm just the irony. Yeah. Because I was one of the guys who was advocating we have to commit the omit, we lock down ourselves. And voila, I was the first one who contracted the illness.
But it's a different story though.
Yeah. But yes, the platform will be different. If we will go back to the old ways, it will take like a slow run because there are adjustments of people. We have retrenched quite a number of people and there were jobs that were, lost jobs. So there are adjustments. And it is like a chain reaction, a domino effect, that from one simple thing, it went up. And not only the Philippines was the victim, but I think lots of countries. Germany, Portugal, Spain, Italy, US, Pakistan, even Saudi Arabia, down.
Doctor, I'm just curious. You were saying earlier na it's already part of the policy, remote work arrangement. Was this part of your disaster response or is this part of your business continuity?
Well, collectively, we have this umbrella, which is the business continuity. And whether we like it or not, we have to give electricity to the ICU. We were already in place. We were able to have a very good take-off because we did it during Taal.
So it's more of like a warm-up already.
Yeah. We have companies, we've been talking, because there are companies in Batangas area. These are liquid, these are like, what we call this, natural gas. And we are preparing for a downwind ashfall. So we are preparing everyone for shelter in place. So we consider two, SIP, shelter in place, and evacuation. But we cannot afford to evacuate. So even security guards, we design them. Okay, everyone is shelter in place, and we will design that families will be brought in. For example, you, Sir Eric, and Ma'am Mans, you are running a very sensitive position. And then you are running power. So in case there is like a wide mayhem, I have to bring your family in. I have to provide everything so that you will continuously work. Your side
exactly. I think this was also the lesson. This was also the lesson from Typhoon Yolanda. I remember that time in 2013 because when Typhoon Yolanda hit, at least in Leyte, there were like parang reports wherein most of the responders were able to respond simply because one, they're also victims, while and then the other one was most of the responders instead, because we're a very family oriented country, like a culture, instead of responding, they immediately
you have to think of your family first.
So it's really a nice a nice input that whenever you do like your policies in emergency, disaster, or in business continuity, you don't only focus on your executives, on your employees, but also with their dependents, because you have to put like that peace of mind to your responders.
Yeah, some may think of it na some may find this unusual because there is this thin line between the personal and the business, right?
Right.
But when it comes to diba? When it comes to disaster or any this mayhem, this cannot be separated.
Yeah. I agree with you because I was one of the ambassadors in creating this list given in our HR, wherein you have to part of our call tree. So we have the call tree, the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, including the relatives. So we have profile for every relative. For example, Juan de la Cruz, like in Bicol, in Legazpi City, we put the center, the Mayon. and we have this 5 kilometer, 7 kilometer, 8 kilometer, and we
Radius.
put the locations of the employees and even the picture of the frontage of their house. Because if I cannot be around, at least I can ask my friend list, force multiplier to get. So we know how many are there. How many people are there, including the dog, the cat, and the mouse. Yes, because I cannot just remove people without, bringing their primary support group, whatever it is, including their
What's
PWDs.
important to him or her.
Yeah. So we have them. So instead of sending tricycle, I will send maybe a truck because the family is like 2 dozens inside the house. I have them in my profile. And it was very effective in Bicol. So we distributed across EDC boundaries, and it's very effective, particularly in Manila. So what I did for security managers and emergency managers, one of the best things that you have to do, you have to be very, very good in coordination. So for example, in Laguna, I am not there in Laguna. I am not God. I am not omnipresent. So in Laguna, I talked to these emergency managers in DRR, like in Miles, Jan Sanaga, he's a good friend of mine. So he is my force multiplier. In case, for example, Miles, you are working in EDC, something happens to you and your family, I can ask Joko, Joko, get Miles and their family. Yes.
Yeah.
Network is very important. True.
Yeah. But this is like the non-lex scripta, ladies and gentlemen. Unwritten law, pakisama mo lang. After all this trouble, pinupuntahan ko po yun.
Yeah.
And,
true.
Something, I don't pay people, but guys, for the boys, just to make sure that I'm very sincere.
The rapport.
That is essential, particularly in security practice.
Yeah.
You have to win friends on your side so that you can diminish the population of influence of your enemy. That's the thing, particularly security managers must develop. Other than effective communicator and being relevant to the topics and the challenges of the new normal times, kailangan updated ka. Hindi yung nagsasalita tayo ngayon ng mga digital platform na tapos ang iyong idea pa ay Genghis Khan leadership style. Yes, I can get lessons there. I can get lessons from Alexander the Great, from King Leonidas.
But the context is totally different.
Yeah. So you have to adjust.
Know your audience, yeah.
Nasa makabagong panahon, masakyan ng millennial. Or else, you are just set aside and people will not appreciate safety, security, and survival.
Now here's the question, Doc Ted. We go to the foresight part. What do you think will be the major safety issues that may emerge after this?
Okay. Other than people will become complacent, that along the way, I did not contract the disease.
Yeah, I survived.
Or they lose the very nature on washing hands, on wearing the mask properly, on avoiding crowd, on allowing ventilation in an air-conditioned room or inside the car. You have to allow ventilation, or touching common places, the banisters and the toilet knobs, and taking a bath when you come from the crowded areas, and even washing your cell phone. Parang tipo pag nawala na, pwedeng katamaran, parang naging ritual na lang, and that's one thing. Another thing also, when you are so focused on COVID and you forgot that there are other hazards coming in, and you are flat-footed because ano lang gawin? And it's like a problem.
It's like you're paralyzed.
Yeah, like we did not prepare our evacuation areas the way it should be prepared in pandemic. It's like paano gawin to? Di kulang ang evacuation. Pwedeng gawin mag-distancing, pero kulang. Makita mo lang, even the terminology, medyo kulang tayo sa paningin natin sa safety and security. The word social distancing is wrong. Right now, Sir Eric and Ma'am Miles, we are socially distanced. I mean, we are physically distanced. Connected. The right term is physical distancing because it's only the anatomy, physiology, and another anatomy, physiology nilayo mo. But you can still connect. You can still socially be, you can connect, and even,
communicate.
We are physically distanced, but we are socially having a social intercourse. Parang ganon.
Right.
Engagement. Yeah,
So,
I know what you mean.
Mali yung term. Mali yung term.
Right.
It
So,
should be
dito pala
physical
sa
distancing.
terminology, ibig sabihin, we are not understanding quite a number of things here.
Yeah.
Same thing also in looking in greater things in health, safety, and environment, and the high part is the security. But if we underestimate the capability of the adversary, for example, bombing inside your company, it is not because you are an enemy. It is because you might be a testing ground and you lose your guard. How many times did I enter mall and I have 2 guns, 2 baril, bit-bit ko, lusot ako. Yun pa lang. Ibig sabihin, something is wrong. The enemy will not go inside a mall and with a t-shirt printed that I am a terrorist. No, he's gonna appear like,
diba? There's no look.
Yeah, like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
That's how problem comes in. They are in disguise, and they are smart. When I say they are smart, that's why I want you to have an enhanced imagination as a security manager, because the enemies are smart. They have the patience. While you are going inside the mall with your beautiful dog and beautiful sweetheart, the one who's gonna create bombing and mass shooting inside your company or doing crazy things there is practicing how to disassemble a 45 and a 9mm with eyes closed, or doing martial arts. And on the 366 day, during the time, the D-Day, in one-on-one basis, you will be outnumbered by virtue of conviction, probably by strength, probably by synchronicity, and probably by the design of the crime or the act of terror. So sa kailangan, sa security manager, you have to be very imaginative in looking at things, as what Albert Einstein said. Because imagination is far, far greater than knowledge. But of course, imagination with data and with historical perspective. Hindi yung nag-imagine ka lang ng mga whatever na unrealistic. Kailangan,
iba na yun.
Grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kung nabomba ang marathon sa US, yung
Boston
Marathon.
Ala, pwede din mangyari doon sa Ironman sa Bicol. Kaya nung dati Ironman, ako yung ginagawa nilang medical director. Pero mataas requirement ko sa security, nagagalit yung organizer kasi gumagastos siya sa akin. Kasi sabi ko, tumatakbo si Ayala, tumatakbo si Senadora. Si Senadora Triathlon. Pag alam mo naman doon sa liblib na lugar dyan, kidnapping mo, sira ka. Ayaw ko na sila mag-isip eh. They think na kung si Esguerra, wild mag-isip eh. So, kumuha na lang sila ng ibang doktor na walang security
aspect.
Biglang binomba ang Boston. Pabalik ulit sa akin sila. Nagbalik ulit sila. Pero it's fine. I don't say I'm right. No? I'll just say it in front of God in the last, if I execute my last breath, or I stand in the judgment day. Right now, I don't say I don't say I'm right, and I don't say they're wrong. I will just say that if I am playing smart, there is another guy who's playing smart. And one day, if I lose my guard, he's gonna outsmart me. And the worst thing with this man is he has capability to lure you into kingdom come, including the children and the mothers or whoever. The difference. We are both smart. We are both strong. He is just the bad guy. I am just the sheepdog. He is the wolf. I protect the sheep. I become the sheepdog. May pangil ako, may pangil din siya. Ngayon, hinihintay ko yung araw na itong pangil, because the sheep can never get respect from the wolf.
Right.
Even if you are rich and handsome and very influential, as long as you have no pangil, yung security concept mo bagsak, wala ka. You don't earn the respect. So, to counteract the effect of the bad guys, the wolf, you have to create sheepdogs. And these are the able, the intelligent, the scientific emergency managers or crisis managers or security managers who's gonna be running our government and the private main offices and other sectors in the society.
Before we entertain some of our live audience, I'm just wondering because in this field I always see the concept of duty of care, at least in the private sector. I think you're familiar with duty of care, but it's quite big in Australia, in Europe, in the
First world
US.
countries.
Yeah, but although here in the Philippines we have by essence we have that. Can you define to us what duty of care is? And the next question is, will this be something highlighted in the post-pandemic?
In the post-pandemic.
Okay. For those who are listening, this is a new, perhaps probably a new line amongst the Filipino audience. When we say duty of care, ito po yung, it's a semantics, no? It's actually a legal semantic.
Right.
And it talks about responsibility of an institution or a person. So that hindi tayo mag-develop ng isang behavior na wherein we will be missing or omitting maybe mga bad things, no? So the duty of care is a holistic, like an undertaking. It must be practiced para ma-maintain natin we are on the highway, that no one is gonna create a mistake by putting himself in an accident or any harm.
Right.
So ito ay during sa formal training, when you create a formal training, this will be part of in the basics on how you will reformat your company when understanding occupational safety and health,
right,
and even security issues, no? Whether it is a tangible or intangible assets, or securing maybe the personnel of the company. The duty of care is like the ethics in medical practice.
Right.
So kami naman sa medical practice is the duty to act, and when we are not doing that, we will be liable of negligence.
Right.
Dito sa atin ay I don't know if I will apologize. Parang bara-bara. Kasi hindi naman siya naturo talaga. Even in, you know, when I was in uniform service, we have, in the military, meron kami mga military training, whatever. Wala kang ganun eh. There's no duty of care thing. Because the military does not think that once they will retire, they will be hired as security consultant or what. Hindi yun.
Right.
They have to study some more from the ground and going up. So yun yung medyo nagkaroon tayo ng error. Na akala mo, dahil once for 10 years or 20 years, you are carrying arms and fighting guys in the hills, pagbalik mo, akala mo okay ka sa security. No, it's not like that. Believe me. I wish it's like that so that I have my excuse.
Right.
Okay? Ako, I have my excuse.
All right.
But since I am a man of science, and I want data along the way to save a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, the duty of care is part of the molding of any manager, so that you will understand how you will create the culture. Without the duty of care, how you cannot create a culture.
Yeah.
And this is it. Okay? This is identifying the risk, this is identifying the hazard, and this is what we are to do. And these are the protocols we are to do so that we cannot be, we are away from harm's way. Or probably that's why we practice the the 5S, that's a Japanese way, so that we will, you know, the clutter there, so that there will be
6S na daw, doctor.
environment, hindi ka madisgrasya, parang ganon. So, collectively, this is the duty to care, and it has a cadence because it is a legal thing.
Right. And do you think this would be evident in the post-pandemic, Doctor?
I cannot say with other companies. I did not hear them, you know, during my interaction, because I've been talking with lots of security and safety managers. They invite me to do talks, even government. I was talking to the national level DepEd. I'm not hearing this duty of care thing.
I see.
I'm not here. It's only in you, and I'm shocked. Wow. Duty of care. Wow.
It's aligned to your fifth what was that? The culturally accepted
value. The thing with duty of care, Miles, and for the non-security and safety, sometimes kasi when you talk about security, safety, and health policy, sometimes they look at it as more of like a document or like more of like a compliance. Like what Doc Ted was saying earlier, it's not embedded in their system. So most companies, at least in multinational companies or outside, you know, they have this as a fang. Like it force people to you know to integrate it into their system, into their work culture, because the only time for you to be able to you know to for people to comply, to think smartly, is for them to make sure that it's already part of their system. That's why I've thought of duty of care while Doc Ted was actually discussing several topics
I think
while back.
he has pointed that out on several points that he was trying to make earlier, especially if there is a crisis or a disaster, you should not think of your employees only, but the people that are significant to them, especially
Right.
also the things or even animals that are significant to them, so that they can continue living, you know, or be sane when it in the amid the crisis. Well, thank you for that, Doc Ted. We will be having an interesting segment after this, so let's have a short break. We'll be back.
Business Profiles Incorporated, leading the way to strategic corporate risk and security management solutions. Business Profiles Incorporated, our business is to keep you in business. Black Pearl Consultancy, bringing intelligence analysis, travel security, and business continuity support to new heights. Black Pearl Consultancy, intelligence for smarter decisions.
BP Argus Security Services Incorporated. For holistic industrial protection, BP Argus Security Services is committed to the highest standards of providing effective security manpower services. Blue Force Security Services, the security manpower of choice by many companies and organizations in the Philippines. Blue Force Security Services, delivering quality protection and service integrity to your corporate needs. Casting live from Manila, Philippines, we are Simply Security, helping you streamline security easily.
All right. Probably we just for us to be able to better prepare some of our live audience, let me just ask one question muna coming from our participants. All right. We happen to have Stephen Cutler. Hi, Sir Stephen. You spoke of some great ideas about being alert and aware, Doc Ted, and the families who return to places where they lost loved ones. What are some techniques you've used to mitigate the sayang attitude and the bahala na attitude?
The spirit of complacency is a mindset. Now, it is, you can change it depending on life's perspective. So it does not mean if someone dies in my family that I will learn. So it's perspective always. So how do you internalize the event? For example, in my family line, for example, most die in bone cancer. So I have to devise ways for me to seek oncological opinion or expertise so that I can get away from having bone cancer. That's a perspective wherein you have to go away from the usual insults that coming along your life. Now, the concept, the complacency is so hard to eliminate in the psyche of man, particularly in this part of the world amongst the Filipino. Parang because we are so overwhelmed with putting food in our table 3 times a day. Yeah. And it's hard to elevate more than that in the hierarchy of scale in Maslow's, wherein we can have a go bag and my salary cannot afford.
It's like their primary priority kasi.
Yeah. But we can do austere ways to prepare ourselves. I always ask people, and I'm going to ask you, Eric and Miles, and the audience, how much is your family? I don't want you to answer that. When I say
it's a rhetorical question, yeah.
Put really a price. If you think that the price is equated to the price of goods in Divisoria, so if the price of your family members is cheap, well, don't prepare. don't practice safety, security, survival.
Wow.
Which is
You
fine.
have convinced me already, Doc
Yeah.
Ted. Oo, tama.
Yeah.
Oo.
So if you think
By all
you are
means,
important,
Oo.
you are mahal, or you are expensive,
Mm-hmm.
well, people, ladies and gentlemen, it has a price.
Right.
Mm-mm.
You don't go to the moon, the same thing you go to Bicol by land.
Right.
There are more safety adjustments you have to do in everything. Like flying an aircraft versus driving a bus to Bicol.
Right.
In aircraft, there are lots of checks because it's more dangerous. The worst transport accident that will occur is by aircraft.
Yeah.
And going again, by the way, I was reminded because Dole had no standing principle of duty of care, I think.
They have
Right.
to.
Even though, but you know,
They
when
have
you,
to adopt.
I'm not law. I did not study law, but I read. There is the
Mhm.
tort law,
Yeah.
wherein you discuss about civil lawsuits. And
Mhm.
duty of care is a legal obligation.
Right.
Now you have to note that it's a legal obligation. You can be
Yeah.
hit. Any company, when you lose your thing there, you're bearing there. Although hindi pa konkreto yung batas natin kasi we are still, we are still the copy-paste from other nations also when it comes to their safety and security practices. Pero in due time, we will still reach our optimum level or the utmost level, the ideal level. We are
Doctor,
going there. I'm not gonna undermine it. I don't undermine. So I want you to always watch your back because, like for example, here, the ambulance drivers are simply drivers. They don't have training on the ideal ambulance driving. That's why when they are on the streets, they can also cause accident because they're
Right.
serving ladies. Where in the ambulance, it's either in other countries they occupy the innermost lane. In other countries, they have to run in the center lane, like in Germany. So here, they are like car racers also because they're
They
not
make way.
oriented and they don't know when to use the flashers, the full
Right.
flashers, and the full sirens. Even if the patient is only like toothache and there was a blaring of words, wow, 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 like that, it's only
Right.
toothache. So they know how to discriminate or to do category drive, something to that effect. Because we don't have the right perspective because we were not starting it the right way.
If you want the family to be, disaster prepared or aware, you have to teach the children. There's a particular experiment. I'm not sure if it was an experiment. Na parang when the kids started telling their parents, "Ma, we have to get like a go bag." When the kids started to be more, disaster aware or risk or aware of things
The
when they were
parents
in the
will
family.
follow.
Yeah, because the parents were like, okay. So it was like more of like obligated because they should know this first more than their children. So I know, I just remember that. So I just have to um, put it on
Sir
the
Eric,
conversation. Yes.
Yes.
since you mentioned about the awareness, I forgot to answer the difference between alert and aware.
Okay.
In being alert, sometimes we misuse them. Simple words and we misuse them, and
Right.
sometimes we put them on the same plane.
Yeah.
Now, in the security arena, these are two different perspectives.
Okay.
It is like looking at the situation awareness, the Cooper's color coding. So when I say I'm aware, it means to say that I'm vigilant on the dangers, particularly talking about dangers on security or safety. So I'm vigilant on the one's guard against danger or any adversity or difficulty.
Right.
And I'm alert. It talks about it's equated with an alarm. So I don't like to put it on one area that they're the same.
Yeah.
Every day I can be aware. I don't have to be alert. Once I
Ah,
have a person of interest and I think I'm reading him that he's gonna create trouble, then I
Yeah.
have to
be
start it up
alerted.
like being
Yeah.
alert.
There's
So
a
in the
phase. Yeah.
Cooper's, in Cooper's color coding, if I'm reminded, there are 4 or 5 color coding. It's like in situation awareness, uh, you are looking at things like what's happening around. I have
Mhm.
personal awareness and looking at situation. So when it's white, it's like we are relaxed, enjoying maybe a Cinderella world. The world is cute. That's why. Now, if you are doing you are entering, maybe planning to go to Divisoria, and you are in a tricycle going to Divisoria in a place where it's so crowded, you can actually jack it up to yellow and then to orange. And when you are in fight mode, there is really trouble. That's the red. The black is the ugly thing, because the black is everything is chaotic and there's no more judgment. So there's also the black thing there. But this is the Cooper's situation awareness color coding. Same thing with being aware and being alert.
All right, for audience, jot it down again. It's
Cooper's. Shout out to Gaya. She's going to find that Cooper's color-coded awareness.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful. So we happen to have a live audience now.
Are you ready?
That's interested to join the live conversation. We have Mr. Hermie Colina. One of our constants in terms of our Simply Security and our mid-direct touch point. Good evening, Sir Hermie.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Miles. Hi, Ted.
Hi, sir. Yes, sir. Just call me Ted. Yeah. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, Ted. Yes. I actually have two questions, but before asking those two questions, I just wanted to share something about duty of care. I worked before in the multinational companies, and as you're aware, if you work for multinational companies, they are really big on duty of care.
Right.
Even here in the Philippines, if you look at our occupational health and safety law, it actually talks about there's probably one provision there that talks about the duty of the employer to provide a safe and secure workplace. So that actually creates a duty of care responsibility on the part of the employer.
It was not just, it's not explicit.
Yeah, so if you look at the law as well, and you mentioned this about tort, it also creates negligence. So if you fail in duty of care, the company or the employer is liable for negligence. So that's the effect of having failed the duty of care. And as I've said earlier, in a multinational company, they're really big on duty of care. They have duty of care with employees travel to other places, duty of care when employees conduct meetings in other locations, if they stay in a hotel, when they travel. So they have that attendant duty of care. So that's how it is in other countries and in multinational companies as well. And it's beginning to be, I think it's beginning to be applied here in the Philippines in the context of local companies in the country. They're beginning to understand the duty of care, although they're already practicing that, because even if they don't talk about duty of care, if something happens to an employee, the employer would have to be, the employees can be sued for negligence or contributory negligence. So those are the sort of things that could happen.
And
now,
I think, go ahead, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Now going to my questions, as I said, I have two questions. The first one is, as an emergency management expert, do you think that we are prepared or resilient to face a perfect storm? Now, a perfect storm, I'm talking about having the COVID-19 pandemic, then having a Yolanda top typhoon, and then having a big one.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking this is because the things that we have now are not actually properly prepared for these three things, or for a perfect storm. Like if we have a strong typhoon that will hit the country in the time of pandemic, and you are going to evacuate people, will the evacuation be non-congregate or it will be congregate?
Okay. That's a very good question.
Then we're talking about the responders. Are the responders going to be there? Are they not going to be afraid of getting infected? Which also happened actually in not being infected when Yolanda happened. There were not that many responders because most of the responders were from Tacloban, and they were actually impacted themselves. So and that's why I think what the government should be doing now is, if they're going to plan for an effective response, the responders should not come from the place where the disaster will happen. For example, in Manila, if the big one hits Metro Manila, the responders should come from either Central Luzon, if it will not be affected, or Cebu.
Right.
Because the responders in Metro Manila will not be able to respond.
Yeah.
They will be paralyzed. I think, and you're right, they will be looking after their own families.
Yes, agree.
That's why when I was in Tacloban during the Yolanda typhoon, during Typhoon Yolanda, the first thing that I did when I got there, I told the manager, we're not going to do anything for the first 3 days. What we're going to do is account for all personnel, including their families. And that's what I think Dr. Ted is doing as well for EDC. Now, my second question is to do with Stephen Cutler's question as well. Do you think that the complacency of Filipinos is born out of the experience that we have? Because we've gone through so much typhoons, so much disasters, that we've gone so complacent or that anyway, we can get past this.
And if I may, Doc Ted, going to Sir Hermes' question, how would the concept of resiliency interplace with that? Because when you talk about resiliency, sometimes you just have to bounce back, without really thinking about risk or what have you. So go ahead.
Thanks.
So I on the other side of this archipelago, wherever you are, Sir Ermi, the way you construct your question, you are a very smart guy. And you know what you are doing. And I'm scared with the question because I know the answer is, the first question is, we are not prepared for even a single major terrible earthquake. We are not prepared. We are doing it quite not really the ideal thing. This is a logistical nightmare. It's like pandemic. Pandemic, for me, I look at it, maybe it's only a 5, 10, or 15% problem. The greatest problem I'm seeing right now is always the logistics. Now, if I have the perfect storm, a combination, the triad of major incidents happening or major disaster. First and foremost, we don't have a very dedicated emergency management system. It is like an offshoot of the DND, our OCD and the RFC. And the people there are just handpicked and they're trained along the way. Meaning we were not really looking at people who have imagination, who have talents. So like, for example, what do we do if we are attacked by Hezbollah? And they did not stop there. What do we do if the history will be repeated, like we are attacked by Egyptians, the Syrians, and the Jordanians simultaneously? So it's like the perfect storm being put on the table, and these are worst case scenario.
Okay.
So I will answer you, we are not prepared. I'm not the government. I don't say I'm the expert there. I don't like the word expert that they put in. But on my little thing, and I look at it in the lens of a guy who has seen quite a number of trouble and how we responded. We are not it. We are quite below what is expected. I don't think that we are like that as described by some historians. Now we are brave, gentle race. So tayo, magaling tayo. Hindi pwedeng magaling ka na may mga bahala ka na ugali. Hindi ka pwedeng maging magaling dyan. Because the British, they were in all parts of the world. Even they were the first people who went to Mount Everest. Mount Everest is named after the British surveyor in India. His family name is Everest. They are trying to occupy the whole world.
You know, guys.
wala silang bahala na kung ganon. So I don't think na meron tayong ganon. We just probably got it somewhere. The wrong virus, like how the Mayans got the wrong organism that they faded away.
Right.
So we got that kind of attitude that we took it and it became bad. And we were affected by some manipulations in the old ways of geopolitics. Like, for example, the planting rice is never fun. Parang the way to destroy us is to create a subliminal message that we are no good at all. That's why during the great occupation of Spain under Legazpi, no, napag-aralan talaga tayo. So they killed our historical bards because we are not people into writing. They killed our pandays. They killed our boat builders. When I say boat builders, of the 108 or 109 galleons that traveled from Manila to Acapulco and back, 98 were built in Cavite. And you go around Cavite, you cannot anymore find the boat building facility. Tingnan mo lang yan. Kasi literally pinatay yan eh. And then the martial arts. Kaya yung mga martial arts natin, tinago natin sa sayaw, sa pandango, sa ilaw. Okay. Now, these things is a description of a person who has no bahala na complex inside his psyche or inside his behavior. We are really regal.
We have to re-engineer that.
Yeah. Nangyari lang, nasira lang tayo. Kasi, you know, in occupation, the best weapon that you do is just to destroy the psyche. When the psyche is destroyed, pitikin mo na lang yan.
You already win.
Mamamatay na yan. Mamamatay na yan. So I think, to give justice to our people, Sir Ermi, because I still believe that we are great people, or else I will have no Ermi raising a very intelligent question. We just have to know, I think we can still reorganize it by putting more doctrines, putting more science, putting more history. We have to create a race of people, go beyond maybe security and safety and survival, but put the cultural perspective and historical perspective so that we will become people of letters, people of science, people of ethics, and people which is described before by Pigafetta as regal, elegant, brave, yet gentle race who can speak Latin, Chinese, Portuguese, Spanish, Arabic, according to Pigafetta, and part of the diet is cinnamon. I don't take cinnamon unless I go to Starbucks. Ganun po ang ating forefathers.
Not cinnamon. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for that very interesting question, Sir Hermie, and thank you so much, Doc Ted, for those.
We still happen to have a lot of questions on the bank. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We'll try our best to forward it at least to Doc Ted and try sending those answers to you guys who participated or sent their questions. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ted. It's been a pleasure. We've enjoyed the conversation.
I know.
Thank you very much, and we hope we could still have you again in our next episode.
In the future, Doc Ted. And to everyone who tuned in and participated in Business Profiles Incorporated and Black Pearl's Security Podcast, Simply Security.
We hope that you enjoyed and learned something from tonight's episode. I bet you did. We also wish to have you again next time.
Yes, we did.
We are casting live every Wednesday, 6:30 in the evening.
Again, this is Miles.
And this is Eric.
This has been Simply Security.
Helping you streamline security easily. Good night, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Identify. Discussed. Understand. Casting live from Manila, Philippines, we are Simply Security, helping you streamline security easily.